Hockey fans, get ready for a trip down memory lane. From impossible comebacks to game-winning goals in overtime, today we're diving into the greatest NHL wins of all time. These are the moments that left fans speechless, players immortalized, and the history books forever changed. Whether it's a miracle on Manchester, a golden goal, or an underdog Cinderella story, these unforgettable victories remind us why we love the game. Join us as we delve into the greatest NHL wins of all time. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 97% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. Thank you so much. Now, back to the countdown. Number 10. Miracle on Manchester. April 10th, 1982, a date that remains legendary in the annals of NHL history. It was Game 3 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and the Los Angeles Kings were up against the mighty Edmonton Oilers, a team stacked with future Hall of Famers like Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, and Harry Curry. The Oilers, heavy favorites, cruised through the first two periods, building a 5-0 lead. Fans knew how this one would end. It seemed inevitable. The Oilers would steamroll through the Kings, continuing their dominance en route to another victory. But sometimes, hockey offers us the unexpected. Sometimes, something miraculous happens. As the third period began, a glimmer of hope appeared. The Kings scored their first goal, then another, then another. Suddenly, the game felt different. The crowd, sensing something special, grew louder. The Oilers, once so dominant, began to falter under the pressure. With just 5 seconds left in regulation, the impossible happened. The Kings tied the game at 5-5, sending it into overtime. And in overtime, Darrell Evans fired a shot that found the back of the net, completing the most improbable comeback in NHL playoff history. The Kings, who had been left for dead, emerged victorious 6-5. The game would forever be remembered as the Miracle on Manchester, an event that still sends chills down the spine of hockey fans. If you think this was a great win, wait till you see the other mind-blowing wins on our list. Number 9. The Easter Epic. Fast forward 5 years to 1987. The New York Islanders are locked in an intense playoff battle with the Washington Capitals. It's Game 7 of the Patrick Division semifinals, and the stakes couldn't be higher. But this isn't just any Game 7. What unfolds is one of the longest, most grueling battles in NHL history, a game that would come to be known as the Easter Epic. As the hours tick by and the game drags on into overtime after overtime, exhaustion starts to take hold. The players, visibly drained, continue to fight through the fatigue. Both goaltenders stand on their heads, making save after save, keeping their teams in the game. Then, at nearly 2 a.m. on Easter Sunday, Islanders forward Pat LaFontaine fires a shot from the blue line. The puck clinks off the post and slips past Capitals goalie Bob Mason, ending the game and sending the Islanders to the next round. 7 periods, nearly 70 minutes of overtime, and a moment that would live in hockey history forever. Number 8. New York Rangers Stanley Cup win. Let's go back to 1994. The New York Rangers, one of the NHL's original teams, had gone 54 years without a Stanley Cup. 54 long years of heartbreak and near misses. But this was their year. They were determined to break the curse. After battling through a tough playoff run, the Rangers found themselves in a winner-take-all Game 7 against the Vancouver Canucks in the Stanley Cup Final. The energy inside Madison Square Garden was electric. Fans held their breath as the Rangers took a 3-1 lead. But the Canucks weren't going down without a fight. They scored to make it 3-2, and for the rest of the game, the tension was unbearable. The Canucks pushed hard, and Rangers goalie Mike Richter had to come up big with save after save. Finally, the clock hit 0, and the Rangers were Stanley Cup champions. After more than half a century of waiting, the drought was over. Captain Mark Messier, who had famously guaranteed a win earlier in the playoffs, lifted the cup, cementing his legacy as one of the greatest leaders in the history of the game. Number 7. Steve Yzerman's double overtime goal in the 1996 playoffs. Steve Yzerman, the heart and soul of the Detroit Red Wings, is preparing for one of the biggest games of his career. It's Game 7 against the St. Louis Blues, and the stakes couldn't be higher. The game is scoreless, both teams locked in a defensive struggle, and as the clock winds down, it's clear that one goal will decide it all. The game heads into double overtime, and the tension is palpable. One mistake, one moment of brilliance, could end the season for one team. That moment comes when Yzerman, with the puck on his stick, skates up the ice and lets loose a slap shot from the blue line. The puck soars past Blues goalie John Casey and hits the back of the net. The crowd erupts, the players leap onto the ice in celebration, and Yzerman's goal becomes one of the most iconic moments in NHL history. That goal not only secured a place in the Western Conference Finals for Detroit, but also symbolized Yzerman's leadership and clutch performance, a defining moment for a team on the verge of greatness. Number 6, Canada's golden goal in the 2010 Winter Olympics. Now we will take you to Vancouver in 2010. The Winter Olympics, Canada versus the USA in the gold medal game. It's not just any game, it's one of the biggest moments in hockey history. The game is tied 2-2 after a thrilling 3 periods of play, and now it's headed into sudden death overtime. Canada is desperate to win gold on home soil, while the USA is looking to pull off an upset that would shock the world. The tension in the arena is unlike anything you've ever seen. Both teams trade chances, and each shot carries the weight of an entire nation's hopes. And then, in a flash, Sidney Crosby collects a pass from Jarome Iginla. He skates toward the net and fires the shot that will forever be remembered in Canadian sports history. The puck slips past USA goalie Ryan Miller, and just like that, Canada wins the gold. The crowd explodes in celebration as Crosby is mobbed by his teammates. The golden goal not only secures the gold medal, but cements Crosby's status as a national hero. It was a victory that meant so much more than just a medal. It was a moment of national pride. Number 5, Montreal Canadiens' 1971 Stanley Cup final win. Let's take a step back to 1971. The Montreal Canadiens, already one of the most successful franchises in NHL history, are facing the Chicago Blackhawks in the Stanley Cup final. The series has been a roller coaster, and it all comes down to Game 7. The Blackhawks are heavily favored, and when they take a 2-0 lead, it seems like Chicago will claim the cup. But the Canadiens aren't ready to give up. Slowly, they begin to chip away at the Blackhawks' lead. Jacques Lemaire scores, then Henri Richard ties it up. In the third period, Richard strikes again, giving the Canadiens a 3-2 lead. Rookie goaltender Ken Dryden, playing with the composure of a seasoned veteran, makes save after save to preserve the lead. When the final buzzer sounds, the Canadiens are champions once again. Dryden, in just his rookie season, wins the Conn Smythe Trophy as the playoff MVP, and his legend begins to grow. For Montreal, it's yet another chapter in their storied history, and for the Blackhawks, it marks the beginning of a long Stanley Cup drought. Number 4, Boston Bruins 2013 Game 7 comeback. One of the most thrilling comebacks in NHL playoff history occurred in 2013 when the Boston Bruins faced the Toronto Maple Leafs in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference quarterfinals. The Maple Leafs, who had not made the playoffs since 2004, were on the verge of a monumental victory, leading 4-1 with less than 11 minutes remaining in the third period. However, the Bruins staged an improbable comeback. Nathan Horton scored to make it 4-2, giving the Bruins a glimmer of hope. With just over a minute remaining, and goalie Tuukka Rask pulled for an extra attacker, Milan Lucic scored to make it 4-3. Then, with 50 seconds left, Patrice Bergeron tied the game at 4-4, sending the TD Garden crowd into a frenzy. The Maple Leafs were stunned, and the game went into overtime. In the extra period, Bergeron completed the comeback by scoring the game-winning goal, capping off one of the most remarkable rallies in NHL playoff history. The Bruins advanced to the next round and eventually made it to the Stanley Cup final, where they fell to the Chicago Blackhawks. For the Maple Leafs, this loss was devastating, as it marked one of the most heartbreaking moments in their long history of playoff struggles. Number 3, the Immaculate Deflection of 1999. The 1999 Stanley Cup Final between the Dallas Stars and the Buffalo Sabres was a hard-fought series, culminating in one of the most controversial finishes in NHL history. In Game 6, with the Stars leading the series 3-2, the game went into triple overtime. Both teams were exhausted, and every shift became a battle of endurance and willpower. The game finally ended when Stars forward Brett Hull scored the cup-clinching goal, a moment that has since been dubbed the Immaculate Deflection. However, the goal immediately became controversial because Hull's skate was in the crease, which, according to the rules at the time, should have disallowed the goal. Despite protests from the Sabres and their fans, the goal stood, and the Stars won their first Stanley Cup in franchise history. This moment remains one of the most hotly debated in NHL history, with Sabres fans still feeling robbed of a chance to extend the series to Game 7. Hull's goal has since become a defining moment in his Hall of Fame career, and the rule regarding players in the crease was changed after the 1999 season to prevent similar controversies in the future. Number 2. Chicago Blackhawks 17-second comeback, 2013. The 2013 Stanley Cup Final between the Chicago Blackhawks and the Boston Bruins was a tightly contested series, with both teams boasting elite talent. The Blackhawks entered Game 6 with a 3-2 series lead, hoping to close out the Bruins in Boston to win their second Stanley Cup in 4 years. With just over a minute remaining in the third period, the Bruins led 2-1 and appeared to be on the verge of forcing a Game 7. However, in one of the most shocking sequences in Stanley Cup history, the Blackhawks scored 2 goals in 17 seconds to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. First, Brian Bickell scored to tie the game at 2-2 with 1:16 left on the clock. Then, just 17 seconds later, Dave Bolland buried a rebound past Bruins goalie Tuukka Rask, giving the Blackhawks a 3-2 lead. The Bruins, who had dominated much of the game, were shell-shocked and unable to recover in the final minute. The Blackhawks held on to win their 5th Stanley Cup in franchise history. This remarkable comeback solidified the Blackhawks' status as a modern NHL dynasty, as they went on to win another cup in 2015. The Bruins, on the other hand, were left to wonder how a sure victory slipped away in just 17 seconds. Number 1. The Red Wings' Russian 5 game of 1997. The 1997 Detroit Red Wings are remembered as one of the most dominant teams of the 1990s, and their Stanley Cup final victory over the Philadelphia Flyers marked the end of a 42-year championship drought for the storied franchise. One of the key factors in their success was the play of the Russian Five: Igor Larionov, Vyacheslav Fedosov, Sergei Fedorov, Slava Kozlov, and Vladimir Konstantinov, who revolutionized the way hockey was played in North America. The Red Wings entered Game 4 of the 1997 Stanley Cup Final with a 3-0 series lead, looking to sweep the Flyers. The Flyers, led by Eric Lindros and John LeClair, were a powerful team in their own right, but they were no match for the Red Wings' skill and depth. In Game 4, the Russian Five put on a clinic in puck possession and defensive play, frustrating the Flyers at every turn. With Detroit leading 2-1 late in the third period, Konstantinov and Fedosov delivered punishing hits that kept the Flyers from generating any serious scoring chances. The Red Wings held on for the win, capturing their first Stanley Cup since 1955. The victory sparked a run of dominance for Detroit as they went on to win 3 more Stanley Cups in the next 11 years. Which of these wins is your favorite? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Let us know in the comments below. And please don't forget to like and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss more hockey showdowns that are coming your way.